Hi everybody, my name is LucentAzure, and who am I? Well, basically, I'm a fairly small content creator. I've recently just started, really, in making some content for this game called Epic 7. And the thing in which I do is I mainly make a lot of Guild War related content. So this is kind of branching out into something that I don't normally do, but it's something that I am kind of passionate about. The reason why I'm feeling passionate about it is Epic 7 is a game that has actually quite influenced my life a lot more than I really thought it would. Basically, it got me a free trip to Vegas. To those of you who are familiar with the Orbis Caster Clash, I was a part of that. I came in third place with that. And it was a really, really wonderful experience. I had a great time whenever I was doing that, and also this was, Epic 7 is the game that also has put me over 1,000 subscribers, and I genuinely do really like doing the content that I do. So, where am I kind of going with this particular intro that I'm making? Well, basically, a fairly decent amount of negative criticism or just negative sentiment has really kind of started to happen with Epic 7 lately. And one thing in particular that I wanted to at least put somewhat of a spotlight on is kind of the lack of quality of life that is in the game. And with this in particular, I kind of want to throw this spotlight on it and see if we can just, hey guys, look over here, look over here. This is kind of the stuff that we really need to start working on. That's kind of really all I'm wanting to do. So, with that being said, hey guys, come on in and let's take ourselves a quick little look. Okay, so I want to go ahead and try my best to keep everything in a very, very tight form of time. I really don't want to be taking too much of everybody's time with this, but for the first really big topic that I really want to start on is the overall lack of charms that are in the game. Now, recently we did get a somewhat of a change to the charm system with the powder system, so every time you go ahead and you sell gear, you'll receive some form of powder for that particular gear. And the thing is, this doesn't really feel like it's going to attribute to helping the charm problem. It feels like you don't get enough of this powder to really kind of alleviate this issue. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the charms in general. So one thing in particular that I do think probably needs to go with charms is either we need to get a lot more of them, or we need to actually scrap charms and just make gold be the actual catalyst for enhancing gear. Now, if we're not going to get rid of the charms, I do at least highly say, well, what if we are still able to enhance gear without charms, but then the gold cost is heavily inflated? That way you still have charms, and then the cost of it is still not as bad. Now, the big reason that I want to talk about this is the fact that gear hoarding is definitely a thing that does also exist in Epic 7. We tend to have an absurd amount of it, and because we have so much of it, we also have to have gear reserves for it so we can just store our stuff. And a lot of the times it's event-related stuff that we can't really use on our characters unless it's something that we're going to be using for PvE, or you're just throwing onto a character for the sake of, oh, I don't have anything else, I'll just throw that on there. So, the big thing where having more charms would help in this format is the fact that if you had more charms and you just straight up don't care about whenever it comes to enhancing, so you're not meticulously looking at each and every stat as you enhance it, then you can just smash it, get it to plus 15 without even really looking at it, and then look at your equipment scores afterwards, and then you can decide if you want to extract it or if you want to get more powder out of it. Things along that nature. And the reason this will help is because then you will be trashing and getting rid of other gear so that it's basically alleviating a lot of the rolling process. So the more that the rolling process is alleviated, the better off this is really going to be, in my opinion. And the more gear that you get rid of, then the less you're going to have it clogging your inventory, and then the less we'll actually need for a gear storing system. And also another small thing in particular that would help in general, and this is just a small thing, but hey, that's what this video is. It's about quality of life. Maybe perhaps also show the enhancements on each of the stats and maintain those enhancements on the stats so you know how well you rolled, or if or what rolled in general whenever you have to go to another piece of gear, things like that, so you can see what it was that you did. And another thing as well, just for funsies, you could also have like a little notification onto like, hey, did something roll high? Did something roll low? Because a lot of the times you're not really going to know this unless you are very, very intimate with the gearing system and you know exactly what a high roll and what a low roll is. And a lot of the times you're just kind of rolling something and you really, really want to get it out of your mind, because this is, in my honest opinion, one of the things that I hate the most in the game. I am not a fan of rolling gear. And now on to my next topic. The one big thing that I think really needs absolutely the most help in the game right now is the actual overall bad value in the cash shop. So whenever it comes down to the cash shop, I'm going to go ahead and lay this out very, very simply as the only items that I even purchase, the only ones I even remotely purchase, are any of the packs that give summon-related currency for any time a new unit comes out, Mystic Metals for any and all new MLs that come out, and the only other time is if I desperately need leaf packs, I can buy a leaf pack, or I'll just wait until a Burning Passion pack shows up. And the only other thing that I will ever purchase from the cash shop is anytime something very, very special is in. As of right now, the only one that is currently very special at the moment is the Group Summon Limited Pack number 2. The reason why that this pack even remotely has my interest is because it has a Bottle of Knowledge and an Unknown Slate in it, and you can choose one of those items. For me personally, it is going to be a Bottle of Knowledge. Bottles are excessively rare, and they are extremely important, especially whenever it comes to a lot of limited and collab related artifacts that are extremely hard to get. Now, the big thing in particular of like why I feel like the cash shop needs a lot of help is because I just do not see a lot of value in the cash shop with a lot of things in here. The only thing in here that is even remotely cosmetic is the skin pack, and skin packs are something that you don't really even necessarily need to buy, especially if you've been in the game for as long as, say, a veteran player has been. You really won't even need skin packs or skin tickets, just because you're going to have them from the Epic Pass, which is basically a battle pass. But you can obtain skin tickets for free in the game. So the problem there is there's no real reason to buy these skin tickets unless you're a new player. And then whenever you go further down into the list of everything that's in here, for example, we were just talking about the fact that we need more charms. But there is a charm pack that's in the store. The problem with this is when you look at the charm pack, I just don't see a lot of value in here. For $50, you can get 10 epic equipment charms and 20 greater equipment charms, along with a scroll that can increase the equipment enhance EXP, along with a fair decent amount of gold and also a lot of sky stones. But I just don't see the value here, especially whenever it comes down to, yo, I just want these charms. So, because that amount of charms, that'll go away in probably about 6 to even 8 minutes if you just have some gear that you want to roll. And that's if you're going pretty slow about it. Like those level of charms, that will go away that quickly. I am 100% positive with that. So that's why you also don't see the little tab on there next to the charm pack, hot. Stuff that is hot is stuff that sells very, very frequently, and you will almost always see it sold, which is why the monthly summon pack, why the Mystic Metals pack, those always say hot next to them, is because they sell extremely well. Now, one thing that I could say in particular, there's a few things that they could add into the cash shop. Now, this is also going to increase like the things that the art development or the art asset team would have to do. If you wanted to add something in through the skin tickets variant, I would absolutely love some form of either sprite editing for the characters or palette swapping, to where you could replace certain colors on characters, or if they came with different colors for the characters themselves, they could release them in small packs for characters that are very, very highly popular, and then you could actually sell those. I would absolutely love to buy some of those, especially if they looked really good. Then that way you don't have to redraw the S3 animation as well, because that's the biggest reason why we don't get a lot of skins in the first place, is because skins themselves also revolve around redrawing the S3 animation, and that is an absurd amount of work hours for the art assets team. Now, that could be one thing that you could add, but another thing in particular that I think would have a lot of value in the cash shop is if you actually gave us custom packs. So when I say a custom pack, let's say for $50 or for $100, then you choose the items that you get. Because a lot of times these packs that are in the shop are things that I just straight up don't need. Like before we were talking about these special packs, let's talk about the 2024 Valentine's limited pack number 1. This one in particular, I just straight up don't need, because it's Sky Stones, there's a few leaves, there's some Covenant bookmarks. The only thing in here that looks kind of premium is the 5-star hero summon ticket number 1, but I also have every single character. And then it also comes with a pack of like one of the items you can choose. It's 5 Galaxy bookmarks, 2 Molagoras, and 10 rare Catalyst selection chests. The only thing out of this entire pack that I would even want to get is the 5-star summon ticket, and that's still also just rolling, so you don't know what you're going to get. So that's where I just don't see a lot of value in a lot of these things, and it's what makes me not want to spend money. But if I had a custom pack, like, okay, let's just say I want to get some powder from artifacts or something, because those very rarely show up in the shop. They only really show up whenever you start powdering artifacts in general, and then they only show up for like 3 hours. And then you could also throw in a mola, like some forms of molas that you can get in a custom pack, because mola packs are also extremely rare. And mola packs are probably the biggest gatekeeping mechanic in the entire game, and you straight up don't even really have the option to just straight up buy Molagoras. It is a very, very bizarre system, because Molagoras will limit you in how you're able to play the game that you want. Now, it's not so bad from a new player perspective, because you do get a very large influx of molas, but if you want to experiment and play with a lot of different things, you kind of can't do that because of the Molagora system. But when it comes to the cash shop, I've already talked your ear off a lot about this, because I feel like the cash shop is one of the biggest things that does need some help. A custom pack of some kind where you can actually change whatever it is that you want to get, so that you feel like you are getting what you paid for and the things that you want. And just, we just don't have a lot of very, very big variable special packs. And I'll go ahead and I'll leave it at that. So let's move on. Okay, so we're not going to spend anywhere near as long on the rest of these topics as we did with the cash shop, because, hey, the cash shop was really, really important. But on to our next topic here. This one is actually really, really baffling to me. So there is a story summon that is in the game. So whenever you go into your summons tab and then you look at story summons, there are a lot of heroes in there that you can summon, and they're all basically in relation to whoever has a side story. Now, there are a number of heroes that are actually not available through this system. 3 in particular that are immediately very, very big in my mind are Sez, Kayron, and Tenebrea. Now, Tenebrea and Kayron are probably the biggest ones in particular in there for 2 pretty big reasons. One, like, Kayron is a very popular character, Tenebrea is a very popular character. Tenebrea also happens to have 3 variants. She has an ML, she has her normal version, and she also has a limited version, which is the Fairy Tale Tenebria. So, like, yeah, that's 3 different variants, and there's no other real way to just get a Tenebrea summon pool going anytime you actually need it, or if you really, really want to spend money. Kayron is an extremely popular character, and also if there was a side story for Kayron, I would absolutely play it, because I would love to see more lore and just story in regards to the Acolyte faction. And then with Sez is kind of baffling, because he doesn't necessarily have a story of his own, but he is like a part of some of the other character stories, and it just seems kind of odd that he does not have a he just straight up doesn't have a story summon character. So yeah, that's one of the big things in particular, as I would say, is we don't necessarily need a character to have a side story to be story summonable, but we should be able to summon a lot of these characters through story summon. It's really, really baffling that we still can't summon these units. And on to our next topic. So now onto our next topic here. The biggest thing in particular that is really, really annoying, just from the perspective of playing the game, is I firmly believe that energy value is absolutely going down. One of the big things that probably needs to be done is leaves need to actually restore more energy than they currently do, and we very well may possibly need a higher rank on our character profiles, because we've been rank 70 for a very long time, and the higher your rank gets, the more actual maximum energy that you can have. So the reason why I really talk about this is the fact that we have a lot of activities that we do in the game that just utilize energy. And one of the biggest ones was one that we recently got a very, very a big change to just recently, and it was to expeditions. So with expeditions, the big thing in particular that makes this one really, really painful from the energy perspective is that energy, it now costs 30 energy to enter into a expedition. Now, yes, the rewards did get slightly higher, but that energy cost is the big thing that really, really hurts about doing it. It straight up kills a lot of my motivation to even go into any random expeditions that are even on my screen. Now, this could just be a fluke at the moment because we currently do not have access to Brutal Ferris right now. Maybe if Brutal Ferris was available, I would actually be doing more expeditions, but this also highlights another problem with the expeditions themselves. Expeditions do actually take a little bit too long to do. And because they take too long to do and we cannot background battle them, something that we actually very well might need to be able to do sometime soon, because some of them are they just drag. They drag, a lot of them take too long to do. Yes, some of the changes that were made to the expedition system where you can get all of your tickets out immediately and then everybody can see what you've already posted, that is a good change. But the fact that they are now 30 energy just to enter into another person's expedition, I really cannot support that that decision that was made. It should really probably be lowered, or you guys are really, really going to have to actually increase the amount of energy that we get into the game. Big thing that I think would change it, like I said before, just make leaves restore more energy, maybe do some changes to the rank system for it, maybe make a higher rank. But the other thing in particular as well about expeditions is because I just mentioned the fact that we don't have Brutal Ferris, and then my own motivation to run expeditions is low because Brutal Ferris isn't there. The reason I bring Brutal Ferris up is because Brutal Ferris gives the Wyvern Hearts, or the Wyvern Reforge Mats. The Wyvern Reforge Mats are the most coveted of the Reforge Mats because a lot of just base sets that are on characters are usually from the Wyvern sets, because that is crit, that is hit chance, and that is speed, and those are just staple, super important stats to always have. And even if you don't have primo numbers in those particular stats, they're more than likely going to be the set that you have, and that's where you need those Reforge Mats. So we don't have access to Brutal Ferris in that particular sense as of right now, but one thing that could help in the future is if there was a Reforge Mat currency exchanger that was in there. So then for all of the, say, Golem mats that I have, because I don't run a lot of Golem, I could then turn some of my, 6k or so mats and turn some of those into Brutal Ferris mats, or into like Wyvern mats, like I was saying before. I don't know, just something like that would probably be a really good idea. As well as one final thing on Expos is there's not really a reason to run Expos whenever your depot is maxed. And we can max our depot a lot faster now because you get more points in the new current expedition system. But after you reach a max number in the depot, like I said, I'm not even doing them now. Maybe if Brutal Ferris was available, I would be, but as of now, no. It just seems like it's a waste of energy to me. So something that would actually encourage people to run them with a max depot, that would be wonderful. But either way, let's go ahead and move on. And on to our next topic. The big thing in particular is I really feel like there needs to be more PvE into the game. Now, it's very, very simple to just say like, oh yeah, please just put in more PvE, but then not even like give like an example of something that you would want. For me personally, I still firmly believe that Auto Tower is the best form of PvE that we ever got. It's something that I look forward to doing every time that it resets, and it's something that is fun to watch, and I genuinely really do enjoy the power progression that Auto Tower does give. So one thing in particular that I would like to bring up about, hey, I want more PvE, is if you're having trouble coming up with something new, the big things in particular that I would at least say for a PvE perspective is to use some older assets that have been used in the past. One thing that was really, really popular, and it's kind of baffling that it hasn't come back yet, was the Brawl mode that was introduced during the Midnight Gala Lilius side story that came out whenever she came out. That was an absolute hit, and everybody really loved it. If some form of that came out that was just a PvE format, just something fun to do in the on the side while they're still probably working on it, so it could be a PvP mechanic, which is the big thing that a lot of people wanted, I think that would be a really good idea, just so it's something else to do. The other thing in general is we're currently in the middle of a new Ancient Inheritance that's going around right now. That has its own set of problems, but the new Ancient Inheritance is not bad, has just a few things in general that could use a little bit of ironing out, but one thing in particular that might be a good idea is to utilize the assets of Ancient Inheritance and make a single-player solo version of it so that you can really just do it, have yourself a little bit of practice so that you're ready for whenever Ancient Inheritance rolls around again for your guild, and so you just kind of have a better strategy for yourself while you're going through, and then also familiarize yourself with more of the mechanics, and I think you would have probably a good time with it, as well as just a single player Ancient Inheritance. It might actually be a lot of fun in general to do, because the power progression of Ancient Inheritance is right up my alley. And like I said before, Auto Tower, that is probably one of my favorite forms of PvE content. If they were to release another variant or something else like Auto Tower, where you kind of just continue to scale and you just keep getting better or stronger relics that can go with it, just like how Auto Tower does, then you could make it like Abyss, I guess, or you could make an infinitely scaling version of it until you lose. I don't know. It's just something that might be fun. But of course, the incentive to actually play it also does depend on the rewards, and one of the big reasons why a lot of us really like Auto Tower is because Auto Tower has really, really great rewards. So those are my ideas, at least for PvE content, something that we could add into the game as a form of PvE, just something else that's fun to do. And so for my last really, really big topic in general that I want to talk about, this is something that Smilegate is probably not too thrilled to hear about, but it is something that probably does need to start happening somewhat soon, is gear profiles or gear loadouts need to become a thing for heroes very, very soon. The biggest reason as to why is sometimes multiple heroes do indeed have multiple gear sets or different playstyles for that one hero. I'll go ahead and I'll give you one example right off the cuff. When Brig came out, Brig was easily one of the best expedition heroes in the entire game. You can use him for quite literally 4 Expos. But the big problem is he is so good at Expos, he actually does have some potential in PvP, but you don't want to use the exact same set for both of them in general. But this isn't really to talk about Brig in general, but like, hey, then there's other characters. Sometimes you have other characters that you have like favoritism for. Me personally is Shadow Knight Pillis, and I have a current Shadow Knight Pillis that utilizes a lot of ER. What if I want to use one that doesn't need ER, so then I can focus into other sets? This is where I feel like gear loadouts and gear profiles would be really, really wonderful. If you had at least 2 sets, it would be amazing if you had 3 sets of just gear that you can throw onto a single character, and then you can just hit a button, swap to the one that in particular that you want to use, and then you should be just straight up cooking with gas. Now, the other big reason why this also is a factor is this would help other content creators in the community also produce far easier content for themselves, because a lot of other people either have excessive amounts of gear, or like they have certain things built for specific PvE or just content creation things in general. You can go ahead and look at just about any video that Tristan Wolfe really puts out. He has lots and lots of different things, and he has a lot of characters built for very, very specific niche purposes. And he also has like a lot of units in his gear roster that just carry gear, which brings me to my next real big point on the gear loadout and gear profiles thing. Guess what, guys? We need more hero space. It is something that desperately needs to happen, and it needs to happen very, very soon. As of this recording right now, which is on February 20th or so, but the current max number of heroes that you can have if you have no duplicates on your team is 290. The max number of characters that you can even have in your hero roster is 300. I probably don't need to really explain why that is a problem, but you go on ahead and you leave this unchecked for really just a few more months, and straight up, those numbers will they will intersect, and then you will start having very, very bad problems. So that is something that does need to be addressed, and hopefully they will address it fairly soon. But yeah, gear loadouts, gear profiles, and also more hero and hero inventory space. And those are the really, really big topics. Okay, and now to really kind of wrap things up a little bit, those were really, really my big topics in general that I wanted to get out, but let's go ahead and talk about a few really, really small QOLs in general that I would like to have seen or looked at in just a bit. So first, really, really big one, I think a lot of us can agree on this, but the Hero Tab UI is really, really not good right now. So the navigation on the new Hero UI is... I firmly don't like it. I think it's quite bad, because the skill level and your gear should all be visible on one screen. That's how it used to be. And this makes it harder so you can share screenshots of your character builds. And also, one thing in particular that is a very huge pet peeve of mine is the navigation in the profile for the characters. Whenever you're in there and you're checking out the profile of a character, you shouldn't exit the hero tab if the back button is pressed. Like, the way it currently works is whenever you're in the profile section of it, you can't go anywhere else. So you just have to remember to not press the back button, and then you won't exit the hero tab. It is quite enraging. If you didn't exit the hero tab when you press back, and then it would just take you to the hero tab where you see everything else, I think that would be fine. But either way, moving on from that, one big thing in particular that does irk me quite a bit is the fact that there are no rewards whatsoever for 3-star max friendship. It is currently the one thing that I am doing in the game as of right now. I have every other character in the game at max friendship except for all of the 3 stars. I'm currently working on that. It would just be cool if we would receive at least something for getting a 3-star max friendship, because it is not quicker than doing a 4-star or a 5-star. If you at least made it a significantly faster, I wouldn't mind it so much. But then on to another topic as well. We need a lot more uses for Proof of Courage. Proof of Courage in guilds, it just feels like we straight up can't donate enough of it. We need either a higher donation threshold, or we need to be able to use this as currency for other things. I have over 1,000 of them, and I think that's pretty bad if you have this many of them and you just straight up can't use them. Another thing in general that is very, very annoying, if you run a lot of PvE content, aka unrecorded history, you're probably going to have a lot of stigma shards. And with a lot of stigma shards, then you have to spend them in the growth altar. And the thing that's really, really wrong with this is we need a much, much higher stigma conversion rate for whenever you're either making penguins in the penguin nest, or in the spirit well whenever you're making your blooms. The big reason I say that is because you just straight up don't use enough stigmas for that. You need to increase it by either adding a 0 to both of the options that are in there. For the growth altar, you have, like, you can acquire 1 or you can acquire 10. Just add a 0 to those. Acquire 10, acquire 100, or acquire 100, acquire 1,000. We really don't go through enough stigmas to justify that. And another thing as well, in your guild, the great achievement in the guild still isn't in the game. That has been there for a extremely long time. Still has not been added. Still isn't a thing. Another thing as well that has been in the game for an exceptionally long time is the 5th Guardian is not in the game. We apparently have 5 Guardians that we can get. We still don't have access to the 5th. We very recently got access to the 4th, but yeah, still no 5th. And we also still cannot level Guardians. That is another thing that has been in the game for an extremely long time. I would say either get rid of that screen to make it where we straight up cannot see the level up Guardian screen, or maybe incorporate a way to level up Guardians, because a lot of the PvE content that we get nowadays anyway, you kind of can't even use Guardians in it. So it's really kind of like a, well, who cares mechanic at this point. And then one other thing as well that is kind of a thing that really miffs me is we need a lot more team slots. So whenever you check your team slots tab for it, it seems like you have plenty, but if you do a fair amount of arena PvP, sometimes you have a lot of units built for specific things in general for teams that you see. And then this is also where all of your hunt teams are. This is where your rune teams are. This is where any and all of your friendship farming teams are. And the one thing I would at least suggest with that is to perhaps move your hunt teams to a team splash page. To give you an idea of what that is, Advent and Rift both have those. Basically, they are their own independent pages that contain the teams for those specific contents. So what you could do is you could just apply that to Hunt, and Shazam. You basically have like 5 extra slots of teams that you can use for arena PvP. And with that being said, those are like all of the really, really small things in general, but because I know somebody's going to bring this up, I'll at least bring it up here. So yeah, remove 15%. Okay, I understand why it's there. Until the ratios between effectiveness and effect res are properly dealt with and it really actually starts to feel more balanced, instead of getting rid of absolute resistance, which is 15%, I would at least advise perhaps lower it to 10, possibly lower it to 5, and then make that threshold instead of 15%, either 10% or 5%, so then it feels like your control characters don't get absolutely screwed. Or something along those lines. That's what I would say. So until effectiveness and effect res ratios are actually dealt with, instead of outright getting rid of 15%, just reduce the numbers. And those are all the really big ones that I can think of at this very moment. Alright, and now for the finale of this entire video. Thank you so much for everybody who has actually sat through this entire video. If you are still here from the beginning, it's been well over 30 minutes, and I greatly thank you for your time. So, first and foremost, let's just recap everything really quick. The first one that I wanted to bring up was Charms. Either needs a complete rework, or we need to do something else entirely with it in general, or get rid of it. 2, it was the bad value of the cash shop. 3, it was the story summon characters that were currently missing. 4, it was energy and expo related. Number 5 was more PvE content that we could use in some way, shape, or form. And then number 6 was gear loadouts and more hero space. These are like the 6 really, really big topics that I immediately thought of in my head. I am 100% positive that I have missed something in particular. This was a lot of things in general, and I wanted to try and get as much of this out as quickly as humanly possible, and just as condensed as possible. I know I've missed a lot of stuff, so hey, that's why I'm going to say this real quick. The reason why I even made this video is because I really, really care about Epic 7, and I want this game to do well. I want the community to do well. And if you think I missed something, or you have something in particular in your quality of life list that you want to have addressed, or that you think is just in a really, really bad state in the game, go on ahead and just let everybody know. Let Smilegate know. Go on ahead and make a video yourself. Talk about this stuff. Go on ahead and spread this information out. And the only thing I just have to ask is that if you're going to make a video, please just be respectful, and then also try to keep everything in a form of realism. Just try to be realistic about it. But either way, guys, this is LucentAzure, and thank you very, very much for watching my video. If you guys want to see more of my content, please go on ahead and hit subscribe. And if you really like this video, it would mean the world to me if you would hit like. And thank you so much. Have a good one, everybody. Later.